This is the Become the Lion podcast. If you are aiming to become the top in your industry, not second, not above average, the top, then you have come to the right place. Become the Lion will provide you with weekly insights and motivation needed from our guests on how to escape the common herd that society lives in. If you're looking to change your life, then get ready. Welcome to Become the Lion.
Hi, this is Trevor and Nicholas from Become the Lion, and today on the show, we have Rachel Pedersen. Rachel is a social media strategist. She has been featured in publications such as Cosmopolitan and Upworthy, and is focused on helping entrepreneurs gain massive attention. Rachel, welcome to Become the Lion.
Hi, Trevor. Thank you so much for having me.
And Rachel, how did you get started as an entrepreneur?
The story of how I got started as an entrepreneur is actually kind of interesting because it's not something that I intentionally really went after. When I used to work as a host and a server at a restaurant, I kind of always had this feeling like I was supposed to open my own restaurant someday, but I didn't even know that meant I was supposed to be an entrepreneur. Fast forward a couple of years and I'm working as a hairstylist, and I had this feeling that I was supposed to open my own salon someday. And then when you fast forward just a little bit more to me working in marketing, there was still that itch, like someday I'm supposed to take my own clients and do this myself. And that's when I found out that itch isn't just, it isn't just a feeling, it's the mark of an entrepreneur. And so I got kind of immersed into the world of entrepreneurs and realized, okay, I think it's time to start turning this into something, because this itch, I can't scratch it if I don't start going for this.
How did you make that jump from having a job to becoming an entrepreneur?
That's a really good question. So I started working full-time in a marketing position for an Inc. 5000 company. And then I started to kind of slowly secure clients on the side. And you know how some people kind of make the jump from corporate employee to full-time entrepreneur? Is that what you did, Trevor?
I just started as an entrepreneur, actually.
See, I love that. I love when I hear that from people, because I didn't know that was an option. So I was full-time corporate, and what I kind of realized is, wow, the risk is really here. I have to decide if I'm going to make a jump and, my family might really struggle financially, or am I going to build up my side hustle? So whenever somebody starts an entrepreneur, I think that is such an amazing advantage because you don't know anything different. But all I knew was collecting a paycheck and showing up 8 to 5, and that was my life. And so I started to secure clients on the side. And then one day I realized that the amount of clients I had on the side was almost equaling the amount of salary I was making at my 9 to 5. And even though it wasn't perfect, and even though I was pretty nervous, like I made the jump, and my husband really encouraged me through it. And I gave myself a 1-month notice, and then I left.
And when you gave in your notice, how did you overcome those fears of jumping full-time into entrepreneurship?
To be honest, I didn't really overcome those fears for a while. It's kind of funny. I feel like anybody who's listening to this, if you have just become an entrepreneur or if you're considering it, that fear. That fear is there, and I remember the day after I put in my notice at my 9 to 5, my biggest client left. And suddenly all my fears felt like they were validated. I was realizing I actually could fail. This actually might not work. And so I was kind of on the borderline of a panic attack and just trying to figure it out and saying, is this worth it? Is it going to be good? And then my husband and I started to talk about it. And I just wanted to know that he was going to be okay with the worst case scenario. What if I don't ever secure another client again and I don't make any more money? What if this totally falls apart? So I basically just said that to him. I said, I need to know that if the worst case scenario happens, we're going to be okay we have a backup plan. Do I go back to work? Can you take on some side jobs? And he looked at me and he's laughing the whole time, because Trevor, the thing about me and my husband is he's just like this calm, he's like a rock. And I'm like this crazy hurricane that hits every day. And I've got all these ideas and all this passion and energy. And he just was like, it'll be fine. We'll figure it out. So from there, I went for it, and I still was probably on the brink of fear and failure for a couple of months, but I realized that there really wasn't a choice but succeeding.
When you first started off, you give your 1 month notice and then you lose your big client. Do you think that has to be tough? Do you think resiliency played a large part to your success?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Resiliency is a huge part of it. And I don't know, are you a naturally resilient person, Trevor?
That was something I had to adapt and overcome over time.
Yeah, it didn't come naturally to me. I definitely tend to be a little more sensitive, a little more, I guess, I'm not naturally very resilient. Things bother me when it doesn't feel like they're right, or like it's not happening the way I need it to. So resiliency definitely is something that I've grown into. And, now I have over 20 clients and I have over 220 students in my university. So today I'm so glad that I'm resilient, because with that many people, there's always a criticism, or there's always something that could be improved, or, you have to be so resilient because you have to recognize it's all coming from a good place. Everyone just wants the best for you and for their business. But I would say, as much as as the resiliency was defined in that moment where I lost my only client after leaving my 9-to-5, not my only client, my big client, sorry. But there was just this moment where I realized I have to learn how to pivot very, very, very quickly. How can I learn to react and change my course of action faster than anybody else? And so I don't know about you, Trevor. Have you had failures so far in your business?
Oh yeah. Even for this podcast, we were supposed to launch it in March, and we didn't launch it until November because it was like if anything could go wrong, it went wrong.
And that's so true of entrepreneurship. And so one of the things that I decided early on is that I wanted to pivot and change directions faster than anybody else. So if something wasn't working, and if it wasn't going smoothly or whatever it was, or I felt like I was hitting a ton of road bumps, instead of pushing along being like, boy, this is tough, I'd write down everything that was going wrong and instantly completely course correct and either change all those things or completely cut bait and go on to the next thing. And so it's not that I haven't had failures. I've had some people say wow, you just haven't had failures. Everything's been a success. That's not true. I launched an entire course that I spent forever on, and I was so excited about it. I was like, this is going to be my 5-figure course. This is it. I found it. And when I launched it, I think I made $125. So the thing that I decided was I'm going to cut bait and never offer that course again and go to the next step. So that was really, really helpful for me, is learning to pivot. That's actually something I learned from my good friend, Amanda Bond, the ad strategist. She said, pivot to the ROI. And she means it with ads, and she means it with her life. And that's what you have to do. You have to be able to move very, very, very quickly and course correct very quickly.
And that's excellent for someone who's listening to our audience who might see someone like yourself and believe that you are an overnight success, but they don't see all the hard work that you put in behind the scenes.
Absolutely. I think that is such an important part of recognizing what goes into, the people that we look up to. I remember just last night, I got an email from Pat Flynn, and he said, I'm so sorry to all of our users of Gumroad or one of his products. He said basically a charge accidentally went out to every single one of their users, and they all got hit with a monthly charge. And it was just a freak thing in the system, and those types of things happen. But he sent out an apology emails, and there were 800 people that were hit by it. And what most people don't realize is, they say, oh, that's a bummer, or, oh, I'm pretty inconvenienced by this. But what most people don't realize, that man is going to be spending the next 48 to 72 hours of his life correcting every single one of those payments and personally apologizing to every single person who emails back and is upset. So when we look at the people that seem to be having all this success, you have to realize that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that is so not glamorous, and that anything that can go wrong does. And so I'm living proof of that. If I can build a business, so can anybody. But yeah, that's been some of the best advice, is to realize that everyone else is dealing with the same types of issues as we are. Just the people who you look up to who have big and successful businesses, their problems are magnified and bigger.
Besides losing your top client in the beginning, and then the course that you launched that didn't do as well as you thought it was going to do, did you have to have any other challenges you needed to overcome?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that was kind of interesting, and this is funny. Trevor, are you married?
I am not.
Okay. So one of the things, do you have a girlfriend?
I do not either.
Don't worry, I'm not hitting on you. I'm married. So one of the things that's funny when you have somebody that you love who's on your team for your entrepreneur, journey, is that person isn't always an entrepreneur. And my husband, I love him. He's amazing. He's my support system, and he's so funny, and he puts up with me in a way that no one else would. When I get into a stretch of a week where I'm working 17-hour days, he's totally all about it, and he's just like so fair and kind and supportive. But I will tell you, that man does not have an entrepreneurial bone in his body. And so when I retired him from his 9-to-5, I was pushing so hard to try to get him to be passionate about his own job. I was like, let's create your own business and your own company. We can do it. Let's do it together. And he was so kind because he pretended like he was interested. And in reality, of course he wasn't. He wasn't interested at all. And so we built out this whole women's fashion clothing line, which was A, secretly a passion of mine, or an idea of mine, but B, it just was, what were we thinking? So he started manning that. And, the first week we had $1,000 worth of sales, and we were so excited because I was running tons of ads to it and they were converting like crazy. And then bam, we got hit with a letter from our main competition that said, you are using our photos, cease and desist. Well, we had gotten those photos from the manufacturer, so we assumed that they were fine for use. Well, wait a second. Then we realized if the manufacturer is giving us fake photos, imagine what else is fake. So we kind of held our breath and stopped marketing so heavily. And then, of course, it started coming in. The complaints, people saying this is nothing like what you said it was going to be. This looks terrible. This clothing is made out of Halloween costume material. And we realized that our manufacturers were terrible. So we made every single mistake you can possibly make in a business. And the thing is, we kept trying to chug along and make it happen. But the thing is, remember how I said I pivot very quickly? All of this happened from starting the store to launching it to advertising it to the returns to everything. It all happened in less than a month. So we spent a couple $1,000s, which is a lot of money. We spent a couple $1,000s on this store and worked really hard to try to make it happen. And it just wasn't, we couldn't find the flow. It wasn't right. So literally I looked at my husband and I said, if you're not, if you're not about this, I'm not either. Maybe you just don't work. And of course he was on board for that. And so we retired him, and he didn't have to focus on creating his own side gig.
These are all the challenges you had to overcome. But what else do you attribute to your success?
I feel like the best person to ask would be my husband. And I've asked him before. I've said, I see people who have success and people who don't. What would you say is the reason that I've had success so far? And he says, you have an unparalleled work ethic. And that doesn't mean necessarily that you have to work 15 to 17-hour days, though sometimes I do. There are weeks, entire weeks, where I'll work nonstop from morning to night, except for a couple hours with my family. But literally, that is one of the biggest things. But it has to do more with this idea that consistent action every single day yields massive results. And I'm not just talking like a little bit. I'm talking about the compounding interest of consistent action every single day. And people get skeptical, and I get that, because in the beginning it's tough. You only see a little bit of movement. You don't have a big network, or you don't have the big clients, or you don't have testimonials. Those types of things are very difficult. So one of the things that I definitely recommend is that every single day you write down several big things that you can take massive action on.
And that reminds me of something that Tony Robbins said, and it went something along the lines of where people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in a decade.
Yes, and I actually think that's a kind of a metaphor. Do you know what I mean? I think that he does mean it literally for some people. I think everyone heard that as they wanted to. But I personally took that because that man does a lot in a year. Don't you agree?
Oh, yes.
Insane. He does more in a year than most of us would do in 20 or 30 years. I actually took that as a metaphor for everybody wants things to happen quickly. Everybody wants to become fit, happy, wealthy, successful in a week, or in a day, or in a month. And, you can insert your own time frame there. I actually didn't personally take that as 1 year. But what he was saying was a lot of people don't ever realize the compounding results. Yeah, I think you're right about that. But the compounding results of a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And that's kind of interesting to me. Every time I think about that, I switch out the language and see it as more of like a metaphor for how we all want instant results and we aren't willing to put in long-term work and effort.
I want to take it in a little bit different direction now, and I really want to talk about your business for our audience. Have you ever read the book .com Secrets by Russell Brunson?
Only 1,000 times. I don't know if Trevor, I don't know if you know this. I am like a ClickFunnels and .com Secrets super fan. I actually just hired Russell Brunson as my one-on-one mentor.
Oh, this is going to be excellent. I just read his book probably about a couple weeks ago, and I must have spent like a good amount of time just dissecting it, and that book it's been a life changer for us. But how have you specifically used ClickFunnels to grow your business?
Definitely. So when I first started using ClickFunnels, I still remember when I was like looking up to ClickFunnels and I didn't really understand what it was, but I wanted it so badly and I couldn't really afford it. So that was kind of tough, and I started using lead pages. But the reason I started using ClickFunnels was because I wanted to have a one-click payment integration for this membership that I was launching. And keep in mind, this is in, I think this is in April and May of 2016, so not that long ago. And to invest $97 a month into a platform made me nervous. It's a lot of money. And I just left my 9-to-5. So of course I'm like a little bit nervous about what's going to happen. I was starting to re-secure those clients and after losing that big client, but for me, it was about functionality. I just needed something that had a one-click payment integration with Stripe. And I started with that. And you know how on the $97 package, you get 20 funnels available. I was like, well, if I'm going to be paying $97 a month, I want to see what else this puppy can do. So I set it up for my webinars. I set it up for my opt-ins. I set it up for landing pages, challenges, everything I possibly could. It's actually my entire website. My entire website is ClickFunnels with the exception of my blog. And it's crazy because as I started to use it more and more, I was like falling in love with it because it's so easy to put together. So if anyone's listening, you're like, what is a funnel? Because I hired an employee a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, I have never in my life heard of a funnel until I started working for you. So if you're listening to this, you're like, what is a funnel? A funnel is basically just guided direction to take somebody who has maybe heard of your brand or maybe hasn't, and to bring them to the point of becoming a prospect, and then a very interested prospect, and bring them to the point where they want to purchase what you have to offer. So sometimes in person, that means, going and knocking on their door and then setting up a follow-up appointment and then getting them to sign the papers for cable. If it's, cold calling, it's the first call, then the second call, and then the email, and then you work to get them to express what they need, and then they sign the contract. And then when it comes to websites, basically your goal is to get as much traffic as you can to turn them into leads through a lead magnet or a webinar or something of value, and then to bring them to a point of becoming someone who wants to buy. But that's basically my easy summary of what a funnel is. And so I was literally using them for absolutely everything. And clearly that was just the tip of the iceberg, because now I'm ready to take on everything with ClickFunnels.
I think a great thing that you mentioned was how you have to provide value for the people to come into your website.
Absolutely. How do you use ClickFunnels, Trevor?
We have not started using them. I read the book. I had my business partner read it because it was so excellent, and it's just starting the process. So I'd love to, it's just great to hear you talk about it, because that's something we haven't even tried yet, and we're really excited about it.
It's so amazing. I have to say, it's one of those things where it sets you up. It gives you a little bit of an advantage, because it makes it easier to funnel people and give them direction. So they're not like, what am I looking at? What is this website? It gives them a very focused direction towards what they need to do on your website. But the other thing with .com Secrets that it teaches is, that the person who can spend the most to acquire a client is always going to win. So what happens when you're a bootstrap business going up against these really big businesses is you have to figure out creative ways without taking on debt to have a competitive advantage. And a part of that is learning how to use, I'm sure you read the book, profit maximizers, one-time offers, upsells, cross-sells, downsells, continuity. But by having those things on the back end, suddenly your business model can become very profitable, and suddenly you are able to go up against the big businesses.
And as you were growing your company, did you implement the processes one by one?
Yeah. I will say, if you're wanting to build a business, could everything be put together right from the beginning? Yeah, it could. But to be honest, I didn't know what I was doing. So I just kind of put something together, and I was like, okay, this is my continuity program. This is my membership. And, it's only just now. Well, I one time launched a course. It was an elite course to my community, and then to others as well if they wanted to join. And it did well. It was a 5-figure launch. My first 5-figure launch compared to my 3-figure launch. But that was the first time I had an upsell. And now I'm starting to see the value, and that my community really wants me to be delivering them more options. They want more hands-on access. They want, they want one-on-one services. They want group coaching. And so it's really something where my market wants it, and I just haven't put it together yet. So it's something where I'm starting to put it all together now that I have, 2 people on my team and Russell as my mentor. So it's go time.
And for your site, when you drive traffic, do you use Facebook ads?
I do to an extent, but I have a very, very distinct warning. Distinct isn't the right word. I need some more coffee. Help me. I use a very interesting approach to Facebook ads. And my biggest thing is, don't spend money on Facebook ads if you don't understand what the goal of the Facebook ads is. And so if someone were to say, well, I want to drive traffic to my website, my big question would be, why? Because that's what I heard you're supposed to do, is usually the answer. And so before you spend a single dollar on Facebook ads, I highly recommend having a game plan, possibly sending traffic to, a landing page where they get an opt-in, or something that has a clear purpose. And the other thing I want people to realize is that, a little bit of Facebook ad traffic doesn't really do anything for your website. So just be careful to make sure you have a plan in place before you start spending money, or else you're going to say, this didn't work. It didn't bring me customers. Well, of course not. You don't have the funnel built out yet. So, when it comes to my actual website, I don't really care about driving traffic to it at all. I actually use something, this might kind of like blow your mind a little because it still blows my mind, but I use something called a social webinar with an invisible funnel. And it's basically a Facebook Live video that is actually the entry point to my funnel. And then I have a $1 trial a $1 7-day trial to my membership. So people can sign up from that social webinar. They don't even realize it, but they're in my funnel. And then once they're in the membership, over 50% say, wow, I love this. And then they stay. So I don't personally drive traffic to my website. I just drive traffic to specific, the front end points of my funnels.
That's excellent. And I like. Do you mind explaining to our audience a little bit more about the invisible funnel?
Definitely. So, one of the things that's interesting about building a relationship with your audience, and I love the word relationship. I think it's so important and so overlooked. That is just it. The biggest thing is you want to build a relationship with your audience, and it's so, so, so important to not make them feel like you're not willing to deliver value or be vulnerable, to connect with them. And so when I created this Facebook Live video, or I think this one is just a video, it's not a Facebook Live, what people don't realize, when I'm telling my story is that it's a part of the funnel. And so that's the entry point to my funnel instead of just sending them straight to, a landing page. First, they fall in love with my story, and then they say, yeah, I want more of this, what this girl has to offer. And the reason it's invisible is because, like I said, they don't realize it. It just seems like it's me just telling my story. But then halfway through the video, I say, look at the link in bio or not link in bio, look at the link in the comments above and you can get your your $1 7-day trial. If I keep saying free, I'm going to have to make it free, dang it. So it's something that people don't really assume is even a part of the funnel, and that's kind of what makes it cool.
Let's say, I like how you have it at $1. So let's say you had it at, say, $67 per month. You think it's easier to get people in for the $1, and then once they're in and they're viewing your site for this free 7 days and they see how much content you provide, then they'd be more willing to pay the $67 instead of paying it right up front?
So it's something I'm definitely testing out. That was kind of the theory that I had, is what happens if I let people try this for $1? Is this going to be a total nightmare? Is this going to be good? And, is this going to be something that brings more people who normally would be nervous? And I'll tell you, just because I like transparency, I'll tell you the results of what I've had so far. So I was expecting a 90% cancellation rate. I was like, okay, if I get 10% retention after the $1 trial, that's perfect. My goal was, though, to bring people into the community and to let them experience what is my social media university, which is, it's lovely. It's wonderful. I can speak very highly of it because I've worked very hard on it and the community loves it. So what happens is, at this point, I've found that over 50% of the people who take the trial, it's actually closer to 60%, over 50% of the people who take the $1 trial say, yeah, I want to be a part of this. This is perfect. This is exactly what I need. And what it also does, and this is actually really cool, is within those 7 days, it also filters out the people who aren't the right fit. And that might sound crazy because everybody thinks, oh, why wouldn't you want everybody? Well, I don't want everybody. I only want the people who bring the community to life, who are excited and kind and compassionate and are ready to learn and take action. And if in 7 days they don't find value there, perfect. You can leave, because I want the people here who find the value in this. When somebody comes in and they say, I already know all of this, and I look at their Twitter following, and their Twitter following is 200 followers, I say, well, clearly you don't. And I don't say this, but clearly you don't, because you haven't implemented it. My 5-day Twitter challenge will grow you by up to 5,000 followers in 1 month organically, without spending $1, without buying likes or followers. And so when somebody says, I already know all of this, it's like, well, no, you don't, but I'm glad that you're canceling your membership because it's not a good fit. You're not taking action. So there's just some transparency behind why I'm loving this $1 trial.
I know how you mentioned Social Media University. Do you mind explaining a little bit about it for our audience?
For sure. Social Media University is a online training. It is a monthly membership. It's very affordable, which is amazing. It's $49 a month. But what it is it's a training program where social media managers come together and they learn everything about specific platforms. There are foundations for how to manage social media. And then there are advanced trainings so that when your clients are like, I want to see more growth. I want to see more engagement. Can you please do this, you know how to handle it. The other big thing that Social Media University does is it teaches you how to handle specific challenges and client expectations, how to handle billing, how to secure clients. And what it really does is it also teaches you with action challenges how to grow your followings on every single platform. And the power of each platform is different. And so Social Media University brings together, right now it's over 220 social media managers and a couple business owners who all come together every single day and support each other on this journey. And I'm seeing my students get clients, leave their 9 to 5, get a massive ROI. But Social Media University also gives you the proposals that you need, templates for emails. Every single step that you need in the process to become a social media manager is found in Social Media University. It's basically, I created what I wished would have been there when I got started. As I stumbled along in the darkness and figured everything out the hard way, I created it.
Rachel, I just wanted to say this interview has been excellent so far. And now we're going to enter the Lions round. We're just going to ask you a couple of quick questions before we end the show today.
Let's go for it.
What would you say to someone who's just starting out and going after their dream?
Take consistent action every single day.
I think that's excellent, especially for the young people who are listening. See, they see someone who has success, and like I said, they think it's overnight, but they don't realize that it was those little actions every day that person took to become successful.
Absolutely.
Do you happen to have 2 or 3 books that you'd recommend for our audience to read?
Yeah, definitely. There are a couple of books I love. Grant Cardone's Be Obsessed or Be Average, that lit a fire underneath my butt. Brian Tracy's The Psychology of Selling. Everyone needs to learn how to sell. I'm so sorry to tell you it, but you have to learn how to sell or you will not be successful in whatever industry you want. It's going to be very difficult and you're going to have to hire salespeople who are very expensive if they're talented. So that book is amazing. And I also recommend Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He teaches all about social media and how to not be salesy on social media, but rather build a relationship.
And last question of the day. Where can our audience find you?
Oh, for sure. You can learn all about me just at my website, which is pretty easy to spell. It's www.rachelpedersen. That's all E's and a D. So rachelpedersen.com. And everything you need to know is there. You can find my blog, my podcast, my free group, the $1 trial of the Social Media University. If you want to check it out and see if you're the right fit for our community, everything that you need to know is available at my website.
Rachel, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with our audience.
Oh my gosh, Trevor, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Thanks for listening to Become the Lion. Everything from today's show will be in our show notes on our website. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Till next week, don't stop grinding.